Aaron, I'm so glad you could make it. Oh, Aaron, you're supposed to do this in GitHub? I forgot about that entirely.
That's okay. I added an issue for it, and I put it issue number 1. I'll put the link up.
Cool. I'll learn slowly.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's a trend. I'm curious how it will work. Sorry for the upheaval.
It's okay.
I think it's pretty cool. I haven't really dived into it because I just saw you did it right, recently. But it's a neat idea.
Yeah, I think was it the India Ghost Group was kind of doing similar to this, and we decided to try it out.
Yeah, I just took all the ideas from them with their permission. So.
Everything is yours, Aaron. Actually, it's basically whatever belongs to Go community is everyone's, right? So
Thank you. That makes me feel better.
+1.
Thank you.
I asked for your permission to replicate what you guys did. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you guys are doing it, and yeah, I'm just glad we can share ideas. This is really awesome.
Cool. Aaron, do you mind if we get started?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alrighty. So I invited a couple meetup organizers to join us today. Catherine Jonas. I don't know if anyone else was able to log in. Let me see who else the participant. I was hoping when Artie runs Sally Go could make it. Looks like not. That's cool. We'll go forward. So people asked to have a better idea of what it takes to run Go Meetup, and there's been some talk doings. Oh no, am I double? I fix it.
It's kind of like that Max Headroom effect from that TV show from what was that, the 80s or something? 90s.
Like a flashback here?
Okay, is this better?
Yes, it is.
Oh goodness, I'm sorry. I don't know why that's happening. But now you get to see me with ginormous headphones on. So people were asking, what it took to run a Go Meetup, and like I've been thinking of doing this with my local Go Meetup is doing some of the study group stuff at our meetup as well. So I thought we could just kind of chat about what people are doing in meetups and how they got into it and everything. So if you have questions, feel free. I thought I'd kick us off by first of all just going, Catherine, how did you get started running a meetup?
Hey guys. Also note everyone calls me Jonas.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. There's no reason you would have known that. But just to get that out there, I'll get confused if I get called Catherine.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess it sort of happened gradually. I mean, I'm the organizer for the Women Who Go group in New York City, I guess. And I started just attending the group. I didn't actually start or found the group, and just kind of started helping out. And then the main organizer actually moved upstate. So then it was me and someone else, and the other person then moved to California, and so now it's just me. But so it kind of happened gradually, and I think I've done a lot of kind of organizing and various things like that in the past. So I was kind of happy to help out. It's something I enjoy doing. So yeah. So now it's me.
Cool. Is there anyone else on the call who has organized a meetup in the past and would like to join in on this? By the way, I didn't have to be invited by me in order to speak up and chat. Just putting that out there. Like I'm looking at you, Carrick. Like I'm so surprised that you aren't a meetup organizer.
Why is that?
I don't know. You just always seem to have so many great things to say, and you're always
I
participating.
do like talking, and to everyone else's detriment. So I have to. I've been
No.
really trying hard recently not to dominate the floor.
Okay. Cool. So I run a couple meetups. I run Women Who Go Chicago, and I also run Write Speak Code Chicago. If you can tell, I live in Chicago. I got into Write Speak Code as an organizer mostly because I kept being a willing volunteer. Everyone just thought I was an organizer because I would like step up and do things. They'd be like, hey, can you help with this workshop? Or we have no one to speak. Or you just show up often enough and you are the one who is speaking first and subbing in when someone's sick. And it just somehow seems to happen that like, you're like, maybe I should be an organizer. But it wasn't like a big decision that I made. For Women Who Go, I was super excited about Go a couple years ago. I mean, I still am, but I was disappointed there weren't any meetups that I could go to at the time. And Chicago Gophers was like not as active when I was looking. So I started Women Who Go Chicago and thought that I could do it as a one-woman show. I'm like, what would be so hard about just talking every single month and bringing up a topic and then doing a workshop month after month for a year? That wasn't my best idea, actually. So Erin was asking, what does it take to run a meetup? Jonas, you want to take that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it can take a couple things, and it can also depend on like kind of what kind of meetup you're running, I think, in some ways. I find the things that I spend the most time on, part of it's just networking, which I feel like is maybe not, it's not my favorite thing. I'm getting better at it as I go, but a lot of it is networking to find speakers and people who are willing to do workshops and present and talk about stuff, because I don't want to be the person doing the talk every time. And I think specifically like within the Women Who Go context, like my goal is really to get women speaking on topics more. So like I'm really trying to reach out and find women who are working with Go and in the community. And then it's also kind of networking around having hosts and sponsors for events. Hosts are easier to find. I find like people that'll host events are pretty easy. Sometimes I need funding for certain things, and that can be a little trickier to find. So yeah, so a lot of it is just like the networking and coordinating and trying to just feel really fine with reaching out to people you don't know that well and asking them if they're interested in doing something. Talking to a lot of strangers. But that's some of it. I mean, and that's, that's kind of what a lot of what I do now, but they can start much more formally, right? If you just know a group of people that want to sit down and study Go, that, or whatever topic, I guess, right? You can just get people together, find a coffee shop and do stuff. Like that's how, other kind of organizing I've done that's maybe a little less structured is just starting there, and then it evolves. But yeah, that's a start. I'm rambling a little, so.
No. Do you have co-organizers at your meetup, or are you the one doing?
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I would like one. I would recommend that too. It really helps to have another person, since my co-organizer moved away. So that's kind of been on my to-do list, is to find another organizer. So because that can be a struggle. I mean, I've been doing a lot more kind of co-hosting with other groups recently, which helps. That's kind of been how I've been managing this for a little while now. I find other meetups to do stuff with. That just can remove some of the burden of stuff. But yeah, I definitely recommend getting a co-organizer if you can.
Yeah, I cannot recommend enough, actually. Go in some cities like San Francisco, whatever. Y'all have it super easy, like finding people who know Go. But in Chicago, at least, there's not that many people. Like even for Chicago Gophers, which is everyone's welcome. Like a big group is 20 people, and as soon as you get even more niche than that. We are like, we're going to talk about machine learning in Go with just women, for example. You've got 3 people showing up, which can be really difficult to kind of follow a normal meetup pattern with if you don't have a lot of people. I've paired up pretty often with the Docker meetup and a couple other local meetups like Write Code to do joint things, because oftentimes, at least for us in Chicago, most people don't know Go. Actually, the people who are coming to our meetups, they're coming as like aspirational Gophers. They really want to be part of the community. They really want to learn Go, but most likely they don't have a job where they're being paid to program in Go. So oftentimes they're doing it on the side as a hobby, and they're showing up to this event, like, 1, to figure out who in the city is actually paying people to write Go. And then 2, getting a feel for just like, how you can kind of get into this and learn things. I don't know. Some people come for food. I don't know. Most people don't eat at my meetup, actually, which is kind of weird.
I always have leftover pizza.
Yeah. Does someone have a question?
When I was working out of New York City, I was lucky enough to get to go to a few meetups for a different variety of programming topics. And it was always a lot of fun because, I'd meet up with former coworkers and, people I worked with then, and we're able to just have an interesting time, talk about, current projects. I just enjoyed it for the social aspects of interacting with other, human beings that, enjoy our trade. So I really like the idea that you mentioned. You like try to synchronize meetups together that, maybe they're too niche, but if you can coordinate with other meetup groups and do a combined activity, that's a really awesome idea. I thought that was really smart.
It's a survival tactic for anyone who's looking to start a meetup, or maybe there's already a meetup in your city, but it doesn't happen very regularly, and you want to help jumpstart it and do it more often. Maybe you only meet like 3 times a year, or it gets canceled a lot. Keep an eye out for other things going on, like the Docker birthday is one, or we have PyData in Chicago, which is a really popular group where people talk about how to do data analysis, machine learning, all sorts of like super nerdy topics that I know nothing about. So I love going to those and go, that would be really neat. Let's get a group of people from our meetup to go to that one. So even if you're not an organizer, I've suggested things where it's like, let's just post on the meetup page, let's go to and crash someone else's meetup as a group together, so you don't feel awkward and alone. And that's always been very successful for me.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, and like one of the pairings I've done too, and especially when I started, because it's like, I feel like sometimes it's surprising how small the Go community is in New York at times, but and then especially Women Who Go always makes it a smaller subset. The main Go group is more active now, but when I was first getting started, it was kind of defunct. So I was then partnering with groups like other women tech groups that do intro courses and doing intro to Go to like promote more Go. So I was teaching like intro courses to be like, hey, you should learn Go, and then come to the Women Who Go meetup so you can continue your learning. So like that was definitely a bit of a like, I was evangelizing almost. But that was like a nice way too, if you're in an area that doesn't, like a topic that doesn't have a lot of people working in it, and you want to get more people in it. That's one of the things I've done too.
Do you typically coordinate the times, like after working hours? I like in San Francisco, when I go visit my primary team there, I mean, a lot of the engineers I work with are working 7, 8 o'clock at night on a regular basis, and that just doesn't work for me, obviously, on a daily basis. But when you have kids and stuff at home, but how do you pick those times when you're going to have those meetups?
Yeah, I know that. So I generally do stick with after work. I mean, I tend to keep it a bit earlier, around 7, which generally seems to be okay. And I do try to be really mindful of like ending at a reasonable time. Longer sessions I do on weekends, but I've been thinking a lot more recently though, because I do think for folks with children, like weekends or after work can be hard. And I know there are some groups that will do kind of in the morning coffee kind of meetups or lunch meetups. I have not done those yet, but I've been thinking about it because I do think yeah, it's like really important. And I think, unfortunately, but especially with like mothers, like it's just, I think it can be really hard for them to come after work, or to come on a weekend when they have kids. And so, and I feel like we're kind of disservicing them by only doing these after work events. So I think it's a challenge, and it's something I've been talking to a few different women about, because I've been trying to get their perspectives, because I'm not a mother, so I don't want to just be like, oh, here's a fix. So I've been trying to talk to some people, but yeah, so I've been looking into maybe like, well, could we do morning or lunch type things that are in a central location so people could come by? Would people be able to get out of work for a bit of time? So that's something I've thought about a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
I agree.
Chicago. Sorry.
Oh yeah, sometimes I feel like when the meetups are all just like a bunch of 20-year-olds, I'm like, oh, this is nice, but like maybe not reaching the larger demographic.
Yeah. We do ours after work, but Chicago, I think, runs a little earlier than the coasts do. So people start showing up at our meetup at 5:30, and we start at like 6 and eat.
So you're saying we should all move to Chicago, join your meetup, and have a reasonable work-life balance?
I don't know. Like, the trains are when they are, and like if we had a meetup that went until 9, like you'd be waiting till 11 o'clock to take a train home. So it just doesn't work well. That dictates most people's hours. I really like the idea of a lunch meetup, actually, because like, I mean, you don't have to be a mom to have responsibilities after work. So and also like the day can be long, and slipping away for lunch and just chatting with people and having a good time. I find it's a little harder to get a sponsor for a lunch thing. WeWork, it's kind of cool. WeWork has paired up with Meetup, and at the moment it's free. You can reserve a WeWork space for a couple hours to do your meetup. So I was going to maybe try to start taking advantage of that, because it's kind of hard to like crash a company in the middle of their workday. Whereas for WeWork, they've got spaces for me like pretty centrally located, which works well for us. Someone asked and mentioned about meetup costs. I'm working with Women Who Go and GoBridge right now to, we're trialing having, we're a nonprofit. It's part of Bridge Foundry. That's what helps run GoBridge and Women Who Go. Having a global GoBridge meetup where they pay for all the fees, and then everyone can link their existing meetups to this and actually pay for the fees themselves. We started doing that, especially for international meetups where the US dollar conversion ratio is really bad. It gets super expensive, especially in countries where like, the conversion ratio is bad, where they just can't use Meetup, and they end up having to do kind of email distribution lists and Facebook and other things like that, but it's not really made for trying to organize as well. So I've had a couple meetups now join us who previously couldn't even afford to do it at all. So that trial's been going pretty well, and I'm doing my best to trick big companies like Microsoft and Google into just paying for that for everyone, so that all the meetups in the world can use a meetup and not have to pay for it, and hopefully pay for things as well. Like if they need to rent WeWork space or co-working space in general to do a meetup, they should be able to do so. Yeah, if you're someone listening to this as a recording and you're a meetup organizer and you need help paying for it, let me know. I've got spots open for people to join up and try it with us.
Can I refer some folks to you, Carolyn?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. I can, I have to ask, Chad has been to this meetup once before, to the study group once before. I'll refer him to you, and he knows some folks at the Manila meetup that I think could benefit.
Sure.
So I'll refer someone who can refer you, if that's a thing.
Yeah, that sounds good. Because I feel bad. Like I personally have, most meetup organizers pay for their own fees. Like they don't get sponsors or anyone else to pay for it. So they're usually shelling out, what is it, $120 a year or something like that, just to pay for having a meetup.com account. So I've been like sending checks to people around the world, actually helping them do this. And I'm excited to be able to have this paid for everyone.
I appreciate it. I had my company
Um,
pay for it, and then I changed jobs, so I haven't had anyone else to pay for that fee except myself for now. So I appreciate getting to try out that sponsorship.
Yeah, that's kind of funny you mentioned switching companies. So many people I've seen who stopped being an organizer, it's because when they were an organizer, they were relying on their company to do the space, pay for pizza, whatever. Basically, all the overhead of running a meetup was being shelled out to their employer. And then when they switched employers, suddenly it wasn't a priority for the other employer, and they just basically couldn't run it themselves anymore. I've lost meetup organizers, co-organizers that way when that happened to them, and that's sad. I don't know how you trick companies into paying for these things if you don't work for them or have some sort of relationship. Like, can you maybe speak more about that, like how you've gotten people to sponsor or host?
Yeah, I mean, so I will say I've generally found hosting is not that hard. So I think someone pointed out earlier too, right? Recruiting and stuff, like a lot of, I mean, again, I target tech companies that seem bigger and thankfully there are a good number of those in New York, right? So, so finding a place to host and then get like food and stuff covered hasn't been as hard. It's the more regular sponsorship or covering things related to kind of, like I'm organizing something in November, which is actually a GoBridge speaker, and like they're going to do it for free, but I need to cover travel costs and accommodations. And so that's been a little trickier. And like for that, it's like, I've been kind of trying to put together a template that argues why it's important to do. And then I've been reaching out to different people I know are either involved with some larger, like one is like involved with Women Who Code, which is kind of like a national organization. So like I look for something that I think has some national funding that might like partner and then pay for it, or like people I know that work at bigger tech companies that I know do these kind of initiatives. So, like I didn't hear about, but like I know Capital One has a big initiative around women in tech, so I reach out to them, right? Like it's kind of targeting my audience to who I think is the right person. And so, which again, like kind of goes back to like, a lot of this is me going to other meetups and other events and conferences and like networking and getting to know people who like work at the right companies, are involved in these events, care about this stuff, and would be a good person to reach out to. So that's what I've had to do a lot of, because I was previously relying on my employer a lot, and now I'm not. So I have to kind of find some other resources.
So when you reach out, are you looking for folks who care specifically about Go or specifically about women in tech? Sorry if you already answered that, but I'm not sure.
It depends. It depends. So generally women, just because I think personally I have stronger networks there, but some have been more specific on like, I know your company uses Go a lot and wants to hire more Go engineers. And so why don't you sponsor my event where we'll bring a lot of like Go engineers? So it depends a bit on who I'm interested, who I'm talking to, what message I think is going to convince them more, right? Like that's kind of how I cater it.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that I'm a really bad organizer. I don't do all this networking, and I mostly carry the meetup myself or with people I happen to know, but I never thought about like using the people I meet at conferences to help find leads for more people to speak. So I really like that, because I've taken on too much.
I mean, I think that's the main thing, is I'm trying to prevent myself from taking on too much, because I've done that in the past. So if anything, I've learned from that mistake. And that's the main, like, because that's the thing, like it is work, right? It's fun. I like it, but it does affect, like, I feel like I go to less and less other meetups now, because I'm spending a lot of time doing my own meetup. and the idea of like going to more events, or like, it's like, it gets a little exhausting, but.
So what was your goal when you decided to be a meetup organizer and keep with it? Because it is a lot of like work. Like, what are you hoping to get out of it yourself personally?
That's kind of interesting, because in some ways, like, I think this is just, something I care a lot about. And it's also something that I think, I think in a lot of ways when I moved into tech, and especially like I didn't come from a traditional tech background, is that I always feel like, how can I give back to the community in a better way? And like, you know, there's a lot of like, you can do open source or different things, but I kind of found that this is a niche I enjoy, and I can, and again, because like I actually used to do a lot of organizing in other spheres. So I was like, oh, this is a really transferable skill set. And I can like, so like part of it was just I have a lot of these skills, so I'm happy to keep doing them. And like, I actually enjoy this. This is a good way for me to just feel like I'm contributing back. Is by helping more people learn and bring people together and stuff. So part of it's just, I feel like this is the way I can really just give back to the technical world and community. That's fun. And ultimately I just, I think it's really important to promote women. I love meeting people that have never spoken before, that are brilliant, and then getting them to talk in front of people for the first time and just do an amazing talk. And like the number of times I've seen that, and it's just so like, I'm so happy to just promote people like that and help them. And that's kind of been the real focus. And that in some ways why I really push myself to network more, is because like I really want to find people I can like promote and push their skills and help them like be better. And so that's, I don't know, I get a lot of joy out of it ultimately. And I mean, and it pushes me to be a better networker, which is an important skill probably in life, unfortunately. So
That's a good skill for everyone. So we see that Elena, she runs Women Who Go San Francisco, has joined the call. Hey, Elena, can I get you to maybe say hi for a minute and introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. Hi. So I just started Women Who Go meetup, be co-organizer for this group in San Francisco. And so I'm still learning. I don't know how to really do it in the best way. So in November, I'm going to organize my first meetup, and it's going to be something super simple, but still I have a lot of questions. Like, for example, I have a company who want to sponsor and host our meetup, but they don't have topics, and like basically they don't have something to talk about, but they want to host this event. So we are trying to find the best topics and how to do it, what to talk about, who should we invite, all these things. So happy to learn from you and appreciate all advices. Basically, I'm interested in everything because I've just started.
It's okay. I've been doing this for a year and I'm realizing that I don't know what I'm doing. So it's okay.
Okay, good to know.
None of us do. We're all figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. So I guess I had a question for the larger group. How many of you all go meetups in your area? I mean, what's your experience with it? What are some things that you think are really working well in your cities?
I've noticed that the San Francisco Go SF meetup, the organizers have changed a lot, so it hasn't been super regular, and that kind of like dampens the vibe. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so you don't have a regular monthly thing that you can count on.
Yeah.
Hi. I can talk about Bangalore. So we have what I think is a fairly strong community of tech guys in Bangalore. The Go community is also pretty strong. I have started attending this quite late. I mean, I've only attended 2 meetings so far, but I've in the past attended many meetings of many other languages and so on. I mean, we have a strong Python community, Go community, and so on. We typically tend to have monthly meetings. For most of the communities, it tends to be like a monthly meetup of sorts. So it's the same case with Go. So the meetups happen on Saturday, and generally there is some company who comes forward to host the event, and it has been fairly regular. I mean, I'm not one of the organizers. I'm sort of a backup organizer in case some one of the organizers can't make it. So the person who should ideally have been talking in this meeting is a lady called Dhriti. So she's been organizing the Bangalore monthly meetups for the last year and a half, and she has done a great job. And she's moving it on to this person called Dinesh, who also has been part of the community for a long time, and he is also I think a co-organizer on some of the meetups, but now he's taking the lead forward. He has also spoken in the Go study groups previously, and I happened to give a talk 2 meetups back, and then I came to know about the Go study group, and then I sort of joined these guys and tried to see if I can help out in my way. But I'm not part of I'm not an organizer though. But the community has been pretty strong. We've not had problems with the. I mean, I've seen that companies have come forward and made all the arrangements and things like that. So that has been a great thing. So one of the problems I tend to hear a fair bit is the commute for people. So which is one of the reasons why, at least in India, the meetups tend to happen on a weekend instead of a work day. And also, depending on the location of the hosting company, the turnout is quite different. So, in fact, the last monthly meetup, we had a roundtable discussion on what are the things that one needs to take care of, like for other volunteers who would come forward and things like that. So, Dhriti happened to mention a lot of points, which I'm just going to reiterate. These are all her points, things that came out of her experience. So she has had. So when faced with multiple companies who come forward to host it, she tries to pick one which is bang in the middle of the city. Ideally, something that is very convenient for people in terms of commute, and even in terms of commute, the commute has actually skewed the audience. So we get for example, if you go to the Golang Bangalore meetup page, you will find more than 1,000 people there. And on the meetups, you will find at least people marking. I mean, you will at least find 140 to 150 people saying, "Yes, I'm going to attend the meeting." But in reality, the crowd tends to be somewhere between 20 and 50, 60. I mean, a good crowd would be like 50, 60. But if it's in the middle of the city, the crowds are better. It's people get more time. We in fact had a very, very long session last month. Which was followed by some of us going for lunch and things like that. So it started at 10 in the morning, and we went on till 2:30 in the afternoon. So all I'm trying to say is that the location has helped us a lot, and this has also helped us because we get wider participation. We've actually been able to build a better network of people. More people have been coming forward to volunteer and be part of the Go community and sort of contribute back. Last month, we also mentioned about the Go study group, which was the last monthly meetup was the first one which was the first meetup after the Go study group India launched. So we spoke about that as well, and we found more volunteers who were willing to help out with the study group as well. So I've seen that the community slowly grows and people are sort of more and more interested. And so far things have been going good. I should have actually asked either Dinesh or Dhriti to come and share their experience from the past. Unfortunately, I don't have too much data to share here other than just the 2 meetups that I've been to. But so far I've been enjoying it quite a bit. I in fact liked the Go community more than most of the other language communities, especially in terms of content and people happily jumping in to volunteer and things like
that. I like Aaron's shameless plug that anyone who wants to volunteer is welcome. I think I just saw Nikita join. Are you on too?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, Carolyn.
Hey! We were just having people share their experiences with their own local meetups. You've run a meetup before, right? Or am I throwing you under the bus here?
You are throwing me under the bus here. I have not been associated with the meetup. I'm just here to learn more and understand how to run meetups.
Okay.
Yeah.
So. Cool. Because it's really kind of cool. India actually has one of the most vibrant meetup communities I've seen so far. Women Who Go New Delhi had 150 people show up to their first meetup. Not RSVP, show up. And for reference, most of our meetups is 5 people.
So, like, how do we encourage that, or how is there, how does that even happen? I can't even imagine 150 people showing up for like, hey, let's talk about computers. But that's insane. I mean, in a good way. That's a lot. How did they make that happen?
She coordinated with, this is Rashmi. She coordinated with other meetups in the area and helped put out the word to them that this was happening. And then she also focused on people who didn't know Go already and made newcomers extremely welcome. And the first talk was strongly focused on people who didn't know Go, so that if you showed up, you weren't suddenly like dropped into a talk about concurrency or something where you just feel out of your depth. It'll be interesting to see how that evolves. I know that Women Who Go South Bay, Artie runs that. I think she also runs just Go Silicon Valley as well. There's a lot of focus on new Go programmers. And, like Jonas, as you were saying, like a lot of introductory topics, teaching other people Go seems to be the most popular thing. When I did a workshop on teaching people Go using a game of telephone, it was like a networking game. I had 20 people there, which for me is 4 or 5 times what I normally get. So that seems to be the most popular way to get people, is that acknowledging that the Go community is super new. I've heard Cassandra Salisbury, who works in the Go team, say a number of times that the number of Go developers just this year has doubled, and they expect it to continue to double every year. So your audience is not people who know Go already.
I have one question regarding this total number of people who is coming. Is if it's exceeding, suppose 150 people has came, and the timeline for the Go meetup is 2 hours, and there are lots of people who is trying to say something about any topic in the Go, and the time limit is exceeding. So how do you guys manage to keep it within the time limits and give everyone a chance, or how do you decide that who has to speak, to keep a balance between the related topic, relevant topic, uh, that means attracts the larger audience that has came for the meetup?
I don't know, Jonas, if you want to answer that.
Yeah, I can say, I mean, with time limits, that's something, when I've done events where like I've had maybe a panel or like multiple people speaking, one is just I communicate very clearly to the presenters that there are time limits and try to like just really try to work with them, ensure that it's very clear like what they're covering and the time limit they're in. And then I usually go over that again at the beginning of the event, and I pretty much just let them know I will cut them off if they go too long. So like that's, it's some of it's kind of feeling the room a bit as well. I think it's important to see like, does there seem to be a really good conversation going and we should leave some flexibility, or, is this kind of dragging on? And so usually I'll just try and find a nice outcome and be like, oh, this is so fun, but we need to move on and cover this, but I try to really let the speakers know up front that like timeliness is important. We want everyone to have a chance to speak. We want to be mindful of people's time, and I will stop you if you go too long. So that's a lot of it. But yeah, some of it I think just comes a little bit intuiting and feeling how the room's going and managing it a bit there. But definitely being proactive about it. Like if you just kind of sit back and let it go, it can get sometimes, things can draw out, and you can see people's faces kind of just like looking a little glazed.
Especially when you don't have everyone who is fluent speaker or presenter, and they are presenting first time. It can go a bit wrong way, or in a nervous way people can start stammering, and it can go a bit long. So
Yeah, I mean, another thing I do, especially like when I'm trying to promote people to speak for the first time, and especially if I'm the one who's like, hey, you should talk, I really try to work with them ahead of time. So like, the lad, like when I did this past time, it was her first time talking. So I was like, oh, send me your slides, we'll work through it, and so I practice with them as well. So that's another thing as well for like new people. I'm there to be like, hey, I'm here to help you if you need it. Let's go through it. I really try to encourage that, so that, I want to help them. I don't want to feel like I'm throwing them out there just to have to fend for themselves. I want people to have a good experience. So that's the other thing I try to do.
Thank you.
What I do for new speakers is I try to do it not in such a way that we end up with a larger meetup where everyone's showing up expecting to be like taught a topic like in an academic session. We try to do our meetups more informal. Like it won't be like a presenter up at the front of the room and then everyone, you know, in chairs looking at them. We'll make little circles of desks and chairs, and people are all sitting next to each other. And it's a lot more like the study group, where someone who's leading a topic is chatting with 3-4 other people perhaps. And some of that's just because our meetup is super small, but it makes them feel more comfortable because it doesn't feel like public speaking. It's just you're volunteering to be the person who picked the topic and to help facilitate it and provide some of the material. But after that, it's just like this is, where people jump in who have ideas, and it's kind of multiple people talking and trying things at once, or oftentimes we'll do like exercises together. So someone was teaching us how to use Buffalo, and she had about 10 minutes of content. She went through it, and then we spent the rest of the time just trying to do stuff together on our laptops, and it really reduced the pressure of trying to be like an official, proper speaker. It's a lot less intimidating.
By the way, I go to a Python meetup as well, the South Bay Python meetup called Baypikeys, and it's pretty typical for the number of people who RSVP to be twice the number of people who actually turn up. I think in large meetups, that's typically the ratio.
That's what I see. I see a 50% drop-off rate between RSVPs and who shows up.
And also, I believe it's more of technology and the kind of interest people show up. Because if someone is presenting, like you told, right, machine learning with Go, the number of people who will turn up will be quite less, because it's the main part of, if the same thing is presented with Python, I believe more people would go to that meetup instead of Go, because it makes more sense for people seeing the number of library, the trends in the technology market, number of jobs available also. So I believe it's more of a keeping a balance what needs to be spoken over the meetup also, I guess.
Yeah. I've been juggling the idea of doing more remote meetups with my group as well, because people are dealing with families or odd schedules, or trying to come in on the weekends. One idea we've had is we do it on the weekend, but you don't drive into Chicago for that. Because at least in Chicago, most people live in the suburbs. Coming in on the weekend would be like a big thing. But getting together at a time when most people have kids at soccer or something actually works a lot better. And then doing something remote like that. I don't know if anyone else has participated in a remote meetup. I want to learn from them. I don't know if you know anyone who does it.
Trick question, because I think this is kind of like a remote meetup.
I was just going to say, this is technically my first remote meetup.
So this was taken from an actual Go remote meetup. This idea was kind of adapted from that. And there's a remote meetup channel in the Slack. So I reached out, I did a talk at the remote meetup, and I reached out later to the organizer, and this kind of spawned from that. But I didn't really want to make this into a meetup per se. I wanted to make it more casual. I know it's kind of hard to draw the line. But anyway, to answer your question, yes, I've been involved with the remote, like a formal remote meetup where people give talks and stuff.
Yeah, I guess I feel silly even asking that. I've been showing up to all your study groups, and I didn't even like put it together in my head, because it does feel more informal. It's not like someone's like, I'm going to teach you stuff for the next hour.
I really like the atmosphere. I really appreciate and enjoy listening to other people show me their code and what they are working on. And it was really cool to walk through the editor that one of the engineers showed us a few weeks back. That was awesome. I mean, I think that's time well spent to interact and see how other developers, tackle unique problems that you haven't really thought about. I mean, there's so many. It just piques my curiosity, and it's really a nice atmosphere. So good stuff.
I wonder if any of you look at the Just for Funk videos from Francis. They are pretty interesting because of the way he works with code and shows why he takes certain decisions while coding. It would be good to have something like that live, so that when you're so that I can just hear what others think when they're taking certain decisions in their code.
At least
I
at my
agree.
meetup, I often will take a talk from a conference, not just for Funk, but like Kavya's talks at GopherCon are always really good at sparking a conversation. Like we'll watch the video and we'll pause it. Anyone can press pause and just reach across the table and pause it and then be like, I have no clue what's going on. And then we'll stop and we'll go through her slides. Like to give you an example of some of the things she's done is like she explains how channels are actually implemented and how they manage concurrency for you, or how the Go scheduler works. These are like deep topics that if you just watch it once, you're going to be like, I kind of followed that, but not really. And being able to stop it gives you the ability to have 5-10 minute conversations before you start the video up again. And it's gotten a lot of participation in my meetups. But Just for Funk is a really good suggestion too. I may start mining that as well.
Yeah, look at that. I've done watching of talks together. I haven't done the like anyone can pause it. That's a good idea. I might try that. I like that idea.
There's this pressure to feel like you're following, and no one wants to admit that they don't. So I'll play the person. Like I have no fear asking questions. So I'll constantly pause it and ask questions and then be like, anyone can just, slap the space bar and keep it going.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I have a question to the organizers of meetups. So how are you guys managing things like recording sessions and putting them up for other people to follow it at a later point? Tends to come up quite often, at least here in India. Typically what happens here is most of the times a talk is already proposed way before the meetup happens. And then after the talk, people follow up, and then the person who presented it tends to put up the slides and things like that. And during the course of the time when the meetup is yet to happen, there are always some people who come forward to request for a video recording of the talk, which sometimes is quite hard. I mean, it has been hard for us to have a recording of all sessions. Not just in the form of Zoom, but in a way that is like fairly consistent, in a way where we can guarantee that all the talks will be available for an audience to look at a later point, and so on. So are any of you already doing this with Zoom or something like that? And does GoBridge sponsor Zoom accounts, or can we approach GoBridge to schedule a meeting session, a recurring session which we can use for recording and publishing the recording later on, and so on. Basically, this is also one of the other underlying need is the level of consistency and uniform quality of recording that comes with it. So that's a bonus. So any inputs there would help us. Thanks.
Having GoBridge do some regular meetings or have a couple accounts that people could use is a really great idea, and I'll take it back to them and see about that. Otherwise, I personally don't ask speakers to try to do the extra work that it takes to make their talk recordable, because I feel like I'm already asking a lot of them. So we don't do that. It also, for a lot of people, it's intimidating to hear that it's going to be recorded. So for at least our format, if I said it was going to be recorded, I don't think I would get anyone to speak ever.
Yeah, I don't record either. And then, I think just because of the nature of the group, it's probably not something I'd really push for. But I think maybe, like for larger, more standard groups, like the main Go groups that are pretty regular, I could see it being a nice thing. But
do you guys also typically get requests for for people who say upfront that they can't attend the meeting, and they would really like if there's a recording which they could look at a later point and so on.
I haven't. The most, like, we'll share, if someone has slides, I'll post those back to the group after, but I haven't actually gotten any requests for that. But it's probably just more the nature of the group. I could see other groups having that.
Yeah, I only get asked for slides or for like every single one of our meetups is usually a repository with exercises and slides and things like that, or just little markdown pages. So we usually just share that, but not the actual whatever went down.
Yeah, my experience from organizing a meetup some years back, actually when I was in Bangalore, sharing slides works sometimes when the slides are informative enough. A lot of people actually write slides just to talk about a single point and then elaborate. So it really doesn't help. In terms of videos, it's pretty simple to just set up a video recording and put it up. But a lot of people find value in synchronized video with slides so that you can see the person talking as well as the slides that they're talking about. That requires a much more involved setup. And it's typically that requires a significant post-editing session to make sure they're synchronized and things like that. And if you want to do something like that in Bangalore, I would suggest talking with the organizers of the HasGeek group in Bangalore who do this a lot, and I got in touch with them some years back to do something like that for a meetup that I was organizing. So that might help you.
Yeah, thanks, Sandeep.
Some people have asked for us to do that in this meetup or study group too. So yeah, I'd really like to know if anyone knows, like I can reach out to them, but I know Bjorn, you also said that there are kind of show notes or summaries that are put up somehow, like maybe someone takes notes or something like that. So yeah, I'd be interested in knowing how that happens as well, if anyone knows.
No, I don't. So for that purpose, I would say means right now what I'm doing is it's helping me. I'm not talking about the meetup perspective. I'm talking from the perspective of this Go study group. Whatever I'm trying to present, I'm trying to put it as a blog post, detailed blog post, whatever I talk about, topic I choose. And then I go and write over the same thing in the Medium in a detailed way, so that people who has missed don't want to get cannot, because sometimes your network is fragile and your voice breaks or be whatsoever reason. They can go and look up at the blog post also, and it can serve as a larger medium also, because people can suggest someone else to go and read and know it's nice or any things like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love that idea.
Yeah, if you do that again, share it. We can put it onto the YouTube comments and we can tweet it out too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Python Bangalore community does that. So they have a regular blog, and after the meetup, there is generally a blog entry which details who spoke about what and what are the topics that came up and things like that. I'll look up the link and send it to you. This has not been happening in the Go community though. Yeah, but I'll find the link and I'll send it.
And that's why if you see if you see about that channel blog, that's why I started blogging about channels, and whatever topic I choose from after this, I will be trying to put it on the Medium blog, so that that day I talked about, it serves as an organic promotion also, because if its content is good, people will be coming after going through those blog posts, that if they find interest, like okay, there are certain things that is being discussed that I would like to know more, and people are discussing certain this kind of stuff over the group also.
Well, awesome. We're just about out of time. I wanted to thank everyone who showed up today. Jonas, thank you so much for coming and answering all these questions about how things work in your meetup. I've learned a ton. I was like taking notes.
Too.
I need to I need to change my ways.
Whatever works for your folk.
Yeah, we're pretty informal, but that four-letter word networking seems to be worthwhile.
I know, right?
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Everyone, guys.
Bye.